Reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gita, Chapter 6, Text number 4. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yada hi nandriyarteshu na karmas vanusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudhastadocchate. I think we did this verse last time. So let's go to number 5. Udared atma atmanam natmanam avasadyate atmaiva yatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Translation: one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Purport: the word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending upon different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important, since the mind is the central point of yoga practice. Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature. And in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used for emphasizing this point, that one must do this. It is also said, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bhanda mokshayo bhandaya vishaya sango mukyai nirvashayanam manaha. For man, the mind is the cause of bondage, and the mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is a cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense objects is the cause of liberation. Amrita Bindu Upanishad 2. Therefore, the mind, which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, is the cause of supreme liberation. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmaditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tadaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. So, this is chapter 6 called Dhyan Yoga. People misunderstand what is yoga. People feel that yoga is performed for some material purpose. That is not the reason to perform yoga. Krishna is explaining, Lord Krishna is explaining in this 6th chapter the process of meditational yoga. Right? But he's not explaining that for some material purpose. The Bhagavad-gita is ultimately meant for liberation from material atmosphere, this material world. What is this material world? What are the main features of this material world? The main features of this material world are birth, death, old age, and disease. Therefore, Krishna explains that this material world is dukkhalayam, a place of suffering, and ashashvatam, temporary. No matter what you try to do in this material world, ultimately the result will be the same. Let's say you work very hard to accumulate so much wealth. How long can you enjoy that wealth? You work very hard for wealth. But mostly what happens is someone works very hard for wealth and his children enjoy that wealth. He has no time, right? He gets up in the morning, right? Gets ready for work, has 1 cup of chai and 2 pieces of toast. Out the door, right? So, same thing for a rich man, same thing for the rickshaw driver. What is the enjoyment? It's not because the rich man is rich that he'll eat 1 loaf of bread. It's still 2 slice. Bas ho gaya. 1 cup chai. So why the rich man is working so hard? For what? And at the end of the day, all of the wealth that is accumulated, he can't take it with him. There's a saying, you come in this world naked and you go naked. Right? Everything that is worked for in a material sense, at some point it will be finished. You, like the example of Hiranyakasipu. Hiranyakasipu, he conquered Indra, the king of heaven. He was the master of the universe, Hiranyakasipu. But how long did it take Lord Nrsingadev to kill him? Fat, within a second. And Prahlad Maharaj was very amazed. He said all the demigods were offering pranams. Even Narada Muni was offering pranams to Hiranyakasipu. Even Narada. But I saw my dear Lord, you finished him within a second. Like the shlok says, like you kill an ant, insect. Lord killed Hiranyakasipu, even though he was so powerful. So this chapter of Bhagavad-gita explains how to divert the mind from the material world, where the living entity is wasting a whole lot of time. You know, like when you're in the train and the peanut salesman comes and he's trying to sell the peanuts, right? What's he call it? Time pass. This material world is simply time pass. That's all. So Lord Krishna is explaining something very serious. Yoga is not so that you can do time pass, right? Cure your diabetes. That's not yoga. The central cause of attachment in this material world is the mind. So one has to control the mind. The mind now is out of control. The mind is thinking that by sense gratification I'll be happy. Mind is thinking, the mind is convincing us that we are this body and that our enjoyment will come by this body. So first of all, Krishna explains in the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita that we're not this body. Nahanyate hanyamani sharire. The body can be killed, but the soul is eternal. So we're not this body. We're something else. The body will die, the soul will remain. We all had a body in our last life. Can you show me that body? You had a mother, you had father in your last life. Can you show me? Do you remember? So you don't remember your mother and father from your last life. Why are you so concerned in this life? Because you're going to get another mother and father in your next life. Right or wrong? And along with a next life comes another birth in the material world, packed up in an airtight bag for 10 months. The mother eating, what is that, chili masala, and the baby's body burning. Huh? Not a nice thing. So how to avoid, how to solve this problem? The real problem is not the problem of, you know what they say, roti, kapra, makan. That's not the real problem. That can be easily solved. The real problem is janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. Birth, death, old age, and disease. So to solve this problem, it begins by controlling the mind. Bring the mind under control. And then when the mind is under control, that person is a Goswami. Go. The mind is one of the senses. There's the 5 senses, which includes the mind. The mind is considered as the 6th sense, and it's the focal point for all the other senses. Because first we think, and then we do something. Right? The mind goes into action, and then the senses go into action. But first the mind. So when the mind is under control, the senses automatically become controlled. If you're Krishna conscious and the mind says, eat this, you don't eat that unless it's offered to Krishna. You don't eat food which is not offered to Krishna. So that's the niyam. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, if you eat food that's not offered to Krishna, you're eating pap, kilbashi, sin. Right? So a Krishna conscious person automatically considers whether this is prasadam or not prasadam. If it's prasadam, he'll take it, she will take it. If it's not prasadam, reject it. The Krishna conscious mind. What about the un-Krishna conscious mind? What is that? Huh? They'll eat any damn thing. Huh? They're walking down the street, restaurant, go to the restaurant, get something from the chopati, right? Samosa or something. It's not offered, right? It's not prasadam. But who cares? It's okay. The un-Krishna conscious mind. So, the mind requires some training. And this chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna is suggesting how to train the mind. Fixing the mind on the Supreme, the mind becomes purified. Instead of suggesting sense gratification, the mind will suggest service to Krishna. So what is the best way to fix the mind on the Supreme? Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. By chanting Hare Krishna, we train the mind. The mind becomes trained and rejects the things for sense gratification and accepts those things that are in relationship to Krishna. So this is the sub and substance of this verse. Now we'll go to the next verse. Bandhur atma atmanastasya yenatmaiva atmana jitaha anatmanastu shatruve varte tatmaiva shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. The purposing of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an uncontrolled enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. So the yogis they're not meditating on something impersonal. It's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. The yogis are meditating on the Lord in the heart. God is in everyone's heart, and He's known as the Param Atma. There's the Atma, there's the Paramatma. The Atma is the living entity, the spirit soul, and the Paramatma is the Supreme Lord. Now some people, some persons with a poor fund of knowledge say that the Atma and the Paramatma are the same. But there's a gulf of difference. The Paramatma is never illusioned. The Paramatma is always in the perfect stage. But the Atma, the soul, becomes conditioned. Conditioned by the mind, conditioned by the body and senses. So when the Atma agrees to follow the dictation of the Paramatma, that's the liberated stage. So the yogis, they meditate on Paramatma in the heart. And it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam that the Paramatma has 4 arms, and he is a dark bluish color and very attractive. And in his arms he has a conch, a disc, a lotus, and a club. So the disc and the club he uses to chastise the demons. And the yogis even meditate that the club is dripping with the blood of the demons. And the other 2 items that the Lord carries in His hand is the conch shell and the lotus. And with these He gives benedictions to the devotees. When Dhruva Maharaj saw the Supreme Lord in His 4-handed form, he was stunned in ecstasy. And the Lord took the conch shell and tapped him on the head. And he began to offer beautiful prayers, Dhruva Maharaj's prayers to the Lord. So the conch shell, the lotus flower, they're there to bless the devotees, to benefit the devotees. And the Sudarshan chakra and the club are there to take care of the non-devotees. Okay? So the yogis, they're meditating on the Lord in the heart. But in this age, it's very difficult to perform this type of meditational yoga. And there's so many cheaters out there. They tell you that you meditate on the light. What is that light? You meditate on a candle. Right? They're giving some wrong information. Because in this age, it's very difficult to control the mind by the meditational process. But it's very easy to control the mind by performing Harinam Sankirtan. One immediately can come in touch with the Paramatma by Harinam Sankirtan, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. The Supreme Lord, that same son of Nanda Maharaj, appeared in this age of Kali as the son of Mother Sachi, Gaur Sundar. And he gave the process by which people can easily come in touch with the Paramatma. Previously, people lived for a long time. You know, there's description in the Bhagavatam, how yogis would practice this meditation for 10,000 years, right? But nowadays, people are lucky if they live 70 or 80 years, right? Somebody 80, 90 years old, very old, right? So short-lived. People don't live for a long time in this Kali Yuga. So they need the process that will quickly bring them to the platform of controlling the mind. Therefore the Lord, out of His immense kindness, came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to show the easy process of controlling the mind and fixing the mind on the Paramatma. If we can do this one thing, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it will greatly benefit us. Extreme benefit can be there by chanting the holy name. We have a huge accumulation of sinful activities, and by one chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we can remove all of those sinful activities. Srila Haridas Thakur showed by his example that Maya herself came to entice him, but he easily passed the test. Why? Because Haridas Thakur was fixed in the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So when our minds tell us, let's go to the cinema, the mind is not our friend. What benefit we get from going cinema? Kachar hote hain, time pass hote hain, kuch benefit nahi hai. But when the mind tells us, let's go to SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple, then the mind is our friend, bandhu, manabandhu, mind, our friend. Right? So the mind can be the friend, or the mind can be the enemy. When we fix the mind on the holy name of the Lord, when we chant the Lord's holy name, then the mind becomes in touch with the Paramatma. And we start to follow the directions of the Lord. The mind becomes purified. The mind in touch with the Lord becomes purified. The Lord and the Lord's name are non-different. So when we're chanting the holy name of the Lord, we're in touch with the Lord and we're purifying the mind. So the rascal mind becomes our friend. It becomes controlled. This is the power of the holy name of the Lord. Right? The Lord and the Lord's energy are one and the same. This looks like wood, but what is it actually? Electrons, protons, a nucleus, atoms, they're moving. In order to move, what is required? Space. You need space. Right? Bhumir, apo, nalo, mayu, kam, mano, bude, vacha. Earth, water, fire, air, and space. Right? So this looks solid, but actually it's mostly space. See how much we are deluded by our senses from what a thing actually is. But that delusion can be resolved Right now we're in a diseased condition, like a person with jaundice. A person with jaundice, they don't like the taste of sugar. It's not sweet. But what is the cure for jaundice? Mishri. When I first came to India, I got jaundice in 1978. Every foreign devotee that came from America, at some point they got jaundice. Why? Because there's a jaundice virus. But everybody in India, when they're a little baby, they get that jaundice virus. So they're immune. But the foreigners that came, including myself, we were not immune. So Giraj Swami, Sridhar Swami, Bhima Das, mostly every foreign devotee, they got jaundice. But what was the cure for jaundice? Two things. Mishri, right? Mishra, and live 52. When you get jaundice, you have to eat Mishra and live 52. Then after some time, you can cure the jaundice. In the same way, when our mind is contaminated by material consciousness, the holy name is the cure. To cure the diseased mind is required a medicine. And what is that medicine? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. So that gradually, as our mind becomes purified, as our consciousness becomes purified, we start making the right choices in life, right? And making the right choices becomes less of a struggle because we're in touch with the Paramatma. The Paramatma is like a conscious, our consciousness, our conscious. You know, they say, let your conscience be your guide. What is that conscience? What is our guide? Paramatma. He's giving good instruction. But the contaminated, conditioned soul cannot hear. Not in touch. Too busy listening to so many things. Right? What do they listen to? The newspaper, the election, this party, that party, who's so many things. So many things. But the purified consciousness is in touch with the Paramatma and listening to the Paramatma. Only taking prasadam, not eating other things. Only listening to Harikatha, not the, cinema kata. So it's a very simple process. It's very easy. Anyone can do it. Simply we have to apply our consciousness, read Bhagavad-gita, study Bhagavad-gita, and then our mind will become our friends. But as long as our mind is not our friend, as long as the mind remains our enemy, we're in a very, very dangerous situation. Right? Everybody agrees? Good. Any questions?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like you were mentioning about how everybody was offering obeisances to the Narad, including Narad Muni, to Hiranyakashipu. So like we see the Prahlad Maharaj was not afraid of the Hiranyakashipu. That's what he was narrating, what you did learn in school, and many other incidences we see. And here Narad Muni is the guru of the Prahlad Maharaj. So why he did, like, he was offering?
Narad was also not afraid, but he was following the system of things. If Narad wanted to finish off Hiranyakashipu, he could have him done himself. But that was not the Lord's plan. Narad also following the Lord's plan. And the Lord's plan was to glorify his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. Right? And that's also Narad's plan also. Prahlad was the disciple of Narad Muni. Who did he learn Bhagavatam from? While he was in his mother's womb, Prahlad heard. Actually, Narad Muni was preaching to the mother, but she was pregnant with Prahlad. She wasn't so much concerned, falling asleep, but Prahlad was listening in the womb. So the Lord wanted to glorify Prahlad. The spiritual master of Prahlad also wanted to glorify Prahlad. So therefore, and also the Lord wanted to come and show his anger. So Narad was playing the drama. Understand? Sometimes the Lord, he's like an actor. He creates a situation where he plays many different parts. This time he wanted to show his anger. So he made this whole lila with his devotee Prahlad Maharaj. Sometimes the Lord wants to show his fame. There's nobody as famous as the Lord. So he came as Lord Ramchandra to show his fame. You know that still in Thailand, they talk about Ramchandra. Cambodia, still they talk about Lord Ramchandra, right? So famous. Millions and millions of years ago, Lord Ramchandra had his pastimes. Still people are talking about Lord Ramchandra because fame is famous. So the Lord comes for various reasons. And his devotees, they cooperate with the reasons of the Lord's appearance. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't come as the Lord, he came as the devotee of the Lord. But some devotees knew that he was the Supreme Lord, like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. But when he would explain by Sanskrit shlokas that Mahaprabhu was non-different from the Lord would cover his ears and say, Vishnu, 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 Vishnu. Because that was the part he was playing, the part of a devotee. Right? In other incarnations, the Lord killed the demons, but Lord Chaitanya came to deliver the demons. He delivered. Lord Braha killed Hiranyaksha, and Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu. But those two same demons came as Jagai Madai. But the Lord didn't kill them. He delivered them. He made them devotees. Right? So that's the mission of Lord Chaitanya, is to make everyone a devotee of Krishna. Because unless people become devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna, they cannot be happy. They won't be satisfied, no matter what they do. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in this purport, at the last line, Prabhupada mentions that when one takes Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord is possible. The last line of the purport of 6.6 verse.
Yeah.
So my question is, Prabhuji, that many times we get detections from like inside. So how to understand that these detections are from mind or from Paramatma?
What does that mean? For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly.
No, the question is, Prabhuji, the dictations which comes to me, whether it is from mind or from Paramatma, how to identify? When it's from a contaminated mind or from Paramatma, I have to follow this.
That's why you have the Bhagavad-gita. Everything is very clearly explained. This Bhagavad-gita is non-different from Krishna. It's Krishna's instructions. And you have the spiritual master. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of Paramatma, to clearly explain to us what is Krishna consciousness and what is not Krishna consciousness. I may think, oh, this is Krishna conscious, but it may not be. Arjuna was convinced not to fight. He thought he was right. What did Krishna say? You're speaking so many learned words, but you're fool number one. Right? So the spiritual master is there, and if we take to Krishna consciousness directly, which means to always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram. That's directly taking to Krishna consciousness. Then the Lord from within the heart will guide us. Guide us to devotees. Guide us to the books. Guide us to the proper spiritual master. Directly. So therefore we ask everyone to chant. We give them the mantra card. Please chant this mantra, right? One devotee says, this is a good luck card, good luck mantra. Chant this, you'll get good luck. And it's true. They'll get the best luck, spiritual luck, transcendental experience. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. As you mentioned that Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna is the best way to control the mind. It's mentioned there. So how we understand that day by day in every daily each day practice, we are proceeding towards controlling the mind, because many a times we feel that we have chanted our 16 rounds but still mind is going away. It's not under control. We are unable to put it in Krishna consciousness.
Did anybody tell you you have to stop at 16?
Sorry?
Did anyone tell you that you have to stop at 16? You know, it's not that, the mentality should not be, oh, I've chanted my 16 rounds, now I can do any damn thing. You can chant more. If you find that after 16 rounds, mind is still creating disturbance, continue to chant. Continue to chant. For so many lifetimes. How many lifetimes? So many. 84 lakh yoni. We went through them all. Same mind is coming along. So much different, things are there on the hard drive. They come up. They bubble up. So it takes some time for that purification to take place. Not immediate. But we have a very powerful assistant, and that's Krishna in the form of his holy name. Give it some time. Okay? All right. Srila Prabhupada ki, SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple ki, Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.